Okay, so I think most everybody knows Tommy and Anna, but I would say Tommy is the man behind the hand. And so the first handful of videos, the first videos that we put out were about 8 weeks ago. It was Tommy when you were starting to regain function in your hand. I'm going to turn the conversation over to the two of you. I know what we're talking about. What does it look like when function is restored and is in the process of restoring in somebody that has the diagnosis of ALS? And because there are so few times that this has been recorded, I think this becomes a really important thing to capture. All right, so let me go ahead and turn this over so that the two of you can just describe. We right now are middle of March. This started, we've been treating for over a year. But the real reversal and what's been going on as far as regaining function started in January. Okay, will you tell us what's been going on?
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
It started about 8 weeks ago with some fasciculations in my arm and my muscles and my hands. And after about a week of fasciculations, it started from my fingertips all the way up to my shoulder. And then just once in a while it would fire and go up and down my arm and my shoulder. And then in the last 6 weeks, it's been really intense. My whole arm from my fingertips to my shoulder, and it even started to come down my shoulder toward my back and my side. And then my hand started to loosen up about 6 weeks ago. My hand was in a complete fist, both of them, and really drawn back, and my fingers would lock. And then Anna would have to, it would hurt really bad up there where they're attached into my arm.
It would hurt really bad.
It would hurt really up into here. In the middle of the night, wake me up, and sometimes in tears, she would come over and straighten my fingers out and roll them back, and have to use quite a bit of force, and then lay them flat on the bed, and then I could go back to sleep. And then sometime I would move, and my hand would clench, and would pull those where it was tendons, where it was attached up to my arm, and lock again, and she would have to do it again. And this went on for probably 4 months, having to do that. But now, when I'm laying in bed, I can actually get my own hand to straighten out my own fingers just by rolling them back, and they'll stay in a relaxed position. And about 3 weeks ago, I started getting movement back in my fingers and my thumb. You can hold my arm up, and I could move my hands. I could actually touch my index finger with my thumb. Sometimes I can't. And I got some wrist movement back. I got control of my wrist left and right. Just don't have a lot of strength in it, but I'm able to move it back and forth now.
Wow.
And then, hold on. And like I say, I can move my fingers a whole bunch on that hand and this hand. Just about the same. Not able to straighten them out completely, but with gravity I can get them just almost straight.
You can touch your fingertips
Yeah.
a little bit again.
Yeah, there's sometimes I can touch my fingertips, and other times I can't.
The first video that you sent to me was just barely opening your hand
Yeah.
8 weeks ago. And then the next video was you being able to get some very minor control over your wrist. And then the most recent one that you had sent that we put out was being able to get better control over your wrist, to see that you can touch your thumb and ring finger, for example, and get that degree of coordination. That's brand new. The other day, what you were showing me was putting your wrist on the table and actually moving your wrist back and forth.
Yeah.
So it's an amount of strength now. You actually have control over your wrist.
Yeah. The other thing that's changed now is in the last week or 10 days, about the last 10 days, I've got some fasciculations across my abdomen, right below my belly button. um, all the way across, and they're fairly deep. And I noticed I got a little bit more core strength to sit up. If I'm sitting halfway straight, I'm able to lean forward now. So I've got a little bit more in my core, and then I've got fasciculations that go all the way up my arm, like I said, in my shoulder and down my back of my shoulder, and I feel them in my side along my ribs right now too.
The reason that you're describing fasciculations, I think, Tommy, you're probably the first person, or at least you're the first person that I know of, that is documenting the improvements. And so the reason that we're describing the fasciculations happening first, that's what we saw prior to getting any movement back in your hands or in your arms. So your hands were the first. And so what happened was we saw very intense fasciculations that started. And you haven't had fasciculations in that area for a long time. There really wasn't muscle in that area. What we have now is the belly of the muscle reforming both biceps and triceps in both arms. So what happened was not just a handful of fasciculations, but all day, a bunch of very intense fasciculations. And then you started to get that movement back in your hands. The reason I just bring that up now is as you're describing fasciculations in your core, you haven't had fasciculations in your core in a really long time.
No, and when I did, they were different. Before they were different. A year ago, I haven't had fasciculations in my core or my arm, my right arm, for 14, 15 months probably. It was just like nothing, no activity at all. But these fasciculations are super intense. It's like being cold and having a shivering effect over your body. It's not like the fasciculations I had when I first had symptoms. That were more like a muscle would fire like a heartbeat, and then it would move to another muscle and do that, and then do it again and again. This is like every part of my whole arm and my shoulder and my back muscles just intensely firing. Just it's almost like getting really cold and coming back and getting warm, and you just shiver.
Except it's just in the arm,
Except it's just
or
in
the where they're firing at the time. It's not the whole body like when you're cold.
Those fasciculations, those really intense, and I agree, the reason that you're describing it as a shiver, so just for the clarification, it's not a sense of cold. Instead, it's like a shaking of the muscle. Yeah, thanks, Anna. It's like a shaking of the muscle that looks different than... Let me see if I can get him.
Right here.
Yeah. So it's a non-stop. Normally when you think about fasciculations, you think about something that looks very different than this. I agree, it's like shaking. And you can see that tricep now, right there, that part that you just ran over, that's the belly right below you, right there, of that tricep. But we didn't have that before. We didn't have that just a couple of weeks before. You could see that muscle just contracted, that tricep. You can see the tendon on either side of it and the belly of it hanging in between. Before, there wasn't a tricep. Again, you can see it contracting over there. So I agree, it's like a shivering kind of intensity. And the fact that it's just shown up in your core and also your glutes. And so the thing is, when you just sat up in your chair, I saw Anna's face, because Anna was like, look at what just happened. So you haven't been able to sit up like that, Tommy. I haven't seen you be able to make yourself comfortable by moving forward or leaning your body forward in order to move your rear end towards the back of the chair.
Yeah, she's had to help me sit up for
I have to
several months
pull him
now.
forward, and then he's able to push with his legs to move himself back so he can sit up straighter. But because he starts slouching down, but now he can do it himself.
Okay, what I think is exciting from this week. So Tommy and I have a little bit of a disagreement of what was the most exciting thing so far this week. Okay, mine is the berry episode, and Tommy's is the fact that he can actually put your arm on a surface and move it back and forth. Okay, I want to talk about mine first. The berry thing, I think it's amazing. I'm going to ask Anna to share it because I can't believe that you're not more excited about it. All right, Anna, tell us the berry story.
So I often feed Tommy berries or nuts or whatever. I was feeding him raspberries in a cup, and that's how we do it. And one of the raspberries fell down, and he was able to pull his arm in and catch that raspberry. This is the arm that hasn't been able to move. So for his brain to tell his arm to do that and to do it quickly enough to catch that berry again, I was ecstatic. I was like, do you know what you just did? And he's like, no. What?
Imagine, it's the first time that you had function back in that arm.
Yeah.
So we've been watching your hand movement and the increased function in your hand. But to actually, for the first time, be able to have that movement in your arm is, and again, we're within 8 weeks of the time that your hands started moving. We've already seen the change in your muscles, right? We can see not just the change as far as your arms getting bigger, we can see the top of your arm, so where the shoulder is, we can see that forming. We can see the area,
it's rounding out.
right? And so you're actually getting function in your arm the first time that we've seen any kind of function over there.
My muscle mass is a whole lot different than it was.
Yeah, this is filled in
Definitely.
right here. This is crazy that this is here again.
From 4 to 6 months ago, there's a total difference in my arm, especially my forearms and my hands.
And what's impossible to see on the camera, so we're not talking about the size, the circumference. We're talking about the fact that not only has the circumference increased, but when you feel those areas, it's muscle underneath. So before there wasn't muscle, it was just fatty tissue. Okay, but now
Skin and bone is what he was before.
and so now you can grab anywhere essentially
it's
on your
exciting.
arm, and it's
Exciting to have-
actual muscle.
To have an arm again, yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, what we're waiting to see, the fasciculations that started in your core and your glutes, we know this week. So they started over the weekend. This is Thursday. And now we know that you can sit up better, and we know that you can kind of inch your rear end back towards the chair. And so we're looking at that in the course of a week. So again, just kind of documenting what it looks like when neurons start to fire.
Yeah, we're definitely firing. He is going crazy right now.
And so now we wait to see with lower body, what changes do we find, and in your core. Tom, you want to show us your wrist on the table?
Yep, I can do that. Let me get up there.
So Tommy came in. I was excited about the berry, and Tommy's like,
Brown thing back.
you think the berry thing was
my finger.
exciting? Watch this. So remember, everybody, Tommy, that arm was just
Restrict my
straight
fingers.
by your side.
Yeah, I haven't
So-
moved it for, it's been at least a year and a half since I've moved that arm, really.
So now you're able to bring your arm out. That.
It's able to move. It's not a fist anymore.
Yeah, I can tell. It's like you're stuck on the leather. Tommy, still, I mean, that's so impressive. The fact that you're able to bring your arm outside of your body, your arm just hung by your body. So the fact that you're able to bring your elbow all the way out there, the fact that you're able to move your wrist like that and have that wrist control, Tommy, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's more than
I know you're a perfectionist, so you're looking at it and you're like, why can't this be better? Tommy, we're talking about 8 weeks ago.
I'm
You
excited.
could not move your arm at all, and you had no movement of your hand.
Yeah, I had to lift it, like to shower him, wash under his arms. I had to lift his arm. If he wanted to put it up onto a bar or something, I would have to put his hand on the bar. And now he can actually grab the bar, and I'm not having to do it all anymore. I would have to put his hand on his lap. It would hang to the side. If it fell down while we were driving, he would be like, this is really pulling on my shoulder. Can you put my arm back on my lap? And I'd be driving, and here I'm trying to reach over and get his arm so it wouldn't hurt him back onto his lap. But he doesn't need me to do that anymore.
We've done a lot of different videos here in the past. Usually it's focusing on the kinds of therapies or the kinds of treatment. The goal of this video, you're actually looking at kind of the journaling of somebody that has had ALS. Tommy, for how long?
About 3 years now.
Yeah, I had symptoms for like 3 years now. So
That is
back in
now,
January.
right, getting function back for the first time. And so initially it was just a small amount of movement in your fingers on one hand. And then the next was starting to see wrist control in, again, about a week. And then noticing the bicep, tricep filling out, the upper pecs filling out, the top of the shoulders of the deltoids filling out, right? And then being able to open and close your hand, where before it was stuck in a fist position. Both hands were totally stuck in a fist position. Then this week, being able to move your arm in a way where, again, the berry thing for me is amazing. To catch something by moving your arm when quickly. Yet before, the only thing that you would have is your arm hanging by your body with no ability to move it. The fact that over this last weekend, are you itchy? What are you doing?
No.
Okay, I didn't know. I didn't know if you were asking Anna for something. And then now to have fasciculation, so that was the first thing that happened. And again, to your point, not even, it's like a shivering motion. The fact that that showed up in your core and that there's increased core strength in the same week. The fact that it showed up in your glutes, now we just wait to see what happens next.
So when he went to physical therapy for the first time, it was about 10 days before we came down this time, the physical therapist said that all of his muscles from his hand through his shoulder are engaging in his right arm. And his right arm was practically dead. I mean, it just sat there, did nothing.
Just talking physical therapy and the role of physical therapy, we started seeing kind of the beginnings of what has now become this back in October. And I remember saying to you guys, hey, Tommy, it's time. You're going to have to get into physical therapy. You're going to have to start doing things, rebuild muscle memory, neuron memory. And so for everybody that's watching it, I'm not sure that physical therapy is playing a major role prior to neurons coming back on board. But once you start seeing that healing occur, I think the muscle memory and restoring kind of neuron memory becomes very important. And that's really where physical therapy starts playing a major role.
I agree.
Got
All
two
right.
ladies here, can I agree with them?
Okay, so I think we accomplished our goal, which is just describing what it looks like when somebody starts getting better with motor neuron disease. I don't know if there's anything else that you guys want to include, or if you feel like we're done.
No, I think we covered my hand and my arm. What's going on right now anyway?
I asked Tommy.
Just trying to keep it tutorial, so.
Yeah, I asked Tommy earlier this week, I was like, if that blueberry thing doesn't make you excited, what could possibly make you excited? So I guess we wait for the next video
I'm
to
just excited
see.
to be able to move my wrist and my hand again, because it hasn't moved for a long time. I haven't been able to touch my finger to my thumb forever. Now I can touch those. I can touch these. I can touch almost all of them on this hand.
That's awesome.
But this hand here, I can touch my index
Because
finger.
he was losing his left hand as well.
Yeah.
He was down to hardly anything.
I've been able just to hold on to the little button on my phone on this hand for quite a while now, but now this hand's even opened up a little bit. I can get my fingers again.
Even that rotation on your wrist. And I can see how big your forearms are getting as you're rotating around. Your forearms were so thin. It's true, I could just see the bones before. That was it, I could just see the bones.
Yeah, there was you could see all the bones, and you could see
You could see both bones in his arm before. Yeah.
One thing I did notice too, though, is, I would say it was 6 months ago, my hand looked like it was dead, had a shiny look, almost like someone that would have a spinal cord injury. And then when they tried to stick me to put an IV in my hand, they couldn't even find a vein in my right side at all, and you couldn't see them. And I've always had really good veins in my hands that everybody could draw blood from and stick me. But this arm here, they would try and try and try, and you couldn't see any veins. And I've noticed that now I can actually see some veins in my hand again. It's like it's came back to life.
I'm gonna come on over. Yeah, I agree. Your skin color, to your point, your skin color is totally different. It was a shiny, waxy
It was a
look.
shiny, waxy look.
And really, you couldn't see any vessels. And now your skin has gotten back to its color. Anna, describe for us, I could ask you, Tommy, but we were just talking, Anna was describing it before we jumped on, about the discoloration on the skin that's gone away. Armpits, groin.
Oh yeah, so I had noticed before he actually got really sick, I had noticed that he had like somebody had painted stain under his arms, and in his groin area. And now I find out that's like your lymph areas.
Yeah, lymph glands.
And I was like, what is going on with you? Why do you look like this? And now it's all gone. So it's taken a long time. It's not overnight, but
yeah, it's about a year.
He's been getting rid of a lot of stuff, parasites and Lyme disease and pathogens and Epstein-Barr and herpes and
we saw a
all
huge
sorts of things.
reduction in chemicals. We looked at
Yes.
toxins, such as talking about whatever that brown discoloration was. And I know you'd mentioned, Tommy, you had a different odor about you before.
Yeah.
So when you were really toxic and when you
Yeah.
were diagnosed, right, you looked different, your color was different, you had the stains, especially around the lymph gland areas, and even your odor was different.
Yeah.
My skin was the color of these walls. It was white.
He was gray. He smelled like decay. Like it was. I knew he wasn't well, and it was sad. But he's way better. He has so much more color in him now, and he doesn't have that funky smell anymore. It's a good feeling.
Infections and toxins.
Yep.
Right? It's making a lot of people sick. And the question is, can infections and toxins cause motor neurons to become destroyed? We know that they can. It's what we went after and addressed in your case. And so I agree, the coloration, not just the color of your skin, but the fact that the discoloration or the staining resolved. Tommy, you've been a farmer your lifetime. So as far as exposures, and we've measured them, you've had a lot of different exposures, pesticides and solvents kind of being at the top of that list. And one of the things that we noticed, and this was in December, so before these major changes happened, we saw substantial reductions in the amount of toxin. Really, just major decreases. Mm-hmm. So we know we've got a body that's better at detoxifying. We know that your level of toxins is substantially lower. We've measured infections. We know that the level of infections is substantially lower. We know in the case of herpes simplex 6, it's gone entirely.
Gone.
Yeah, it was an elevated level, and now the lab can't find. I didn't know we had an end. Okay, so we were just cut off because we reached our end of this. But yeah, we were talking about herpes simplex 6 that the lab can't even find anymore. Not as an IgM, not as an IgG, as if you'd never had exposure.
Right.
It's the first time I've ever seen that. I've never seen a situation where somebody had a history of a virus, IgG, elevations, and then you're at a level where it is no longer identifiable. Yeah. Look, it's been a lot of changes over the course of a year, a lot of different approaches, all to get to this point. I love that you're here.
A year. It's been a long time now. It's been 16 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worth it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
16 months. Getting in trouble by Amy when I come down here not doing the right thing.
Well, because you weren't eating as well as you could. I needed you in physical therapy, but you didn't go into physical therapy. We could have a laundry list of discussions, but now you're catching raspberries. That's all that matters.
Tommy's eating's always been pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't complain about his eating, but yeah, he hasn't.
We definitely have to up the calories a bunch. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we still have to up those up some more.
Probably now, yeah, for sure.
I like at least 3,000. You know where I'm at with things. All right. Well, and before we get cut off a second time, I don't know what the total limit is here. I can't thank you guys enough. Again, this I think is the first that I'm aware of somebody documenting a reversal, right, of motor neuron disease. Somebody that's actually getting function back, and in almost a week-to-week scenario showing us the improvements. It is tremendous, and to be able to see it and understand what this process looks like, I think is going to be very important for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thanks for this. Keep us in the loop. Continue sending videos. And then I can't wait to see where you are in another month from now. Because imagine this is where you are in 2 months. Wonder what next month looks like.
Yeah, we're excited too.
All
More
right.
healing.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.